I think it was in the early 70s. In the early 70s, when Blanchard and Hersey came down together. It was after the 1 Minute Administrator was published. And they both wanted to come to Nova. But by then I realized that we were in debt, and we weren't going to hire two professors like them. And so we decided, when I spoke to one member of the board, he said, it's a little premature, can't have two, but if you really think one would do it, you can have one. But they didn't want to separate. I said, you know, I'm not going to hire both of you. So come and be my friend whenever you feel like it. Do what you can do, but stay where you are. And that's how we ended our discussion at that time. And then they did come. Blanchard came a few times by himself, never charged me except some airfare, and he gave some seminars here. And Hersey did that later on, the same way. And then there was kind of a break for a while. And most of the dialogue from then on was with Newman Pollock, who was the dean of the business school. And so I lost that contact, but I appreciated them coming, not charging me, except some travel money. And both of them were very successful. They were good people. Whenever I could, I stopped in. Either I stopped in here, there, or he gave me his lecture in my office, one or the other. But I always asked him what he was doing here, hoping he would say, I'm looking for a job, but he didn't say that. The Hall of Fame. And I think Blanchard and Hersey were I guess the two people that did a lot to give me that understanding and to focus me that if you're going to want to bring in dollars at the philanthropic level, you're going to first have to make friends. And you do that by not talking about dollars, by talking about rewards for things that they've done in their life. And if I had to say something about Hersey and Ballard, it would be that they deserved the friendship that we encountered. They came here on numerous occasions separately. They always kept in touch with us. And if we needed them, they would have come. Sure, that's an example of making friends, them appreciating what you're trying to do, even though you hadn't been there yet or reached what you wanted to reach, and their willingness to help. And the $1 million was a very good gift from a person that earned it the way he earned it, and not out of the business world with stock and things of that nature.
In 2005, Charlie Blackwell got the opportunity to interview Doc Hersey at some management meetings and came back and said, I've got a great deal for you, which made me skeptical, of course. And he said, Doc Hersey, the famous author of Situational Leadership and many other things, has offered to come here and teach for a whole term. And that old adage popped in my mind immediately that when it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But in this case, it was too good to be true, but it really was true. And Doc came in 2006, put on his first seminar for us, and that began our relationship with Doc and NSU and the NSU family. Doc's an amazing person and a giving person. That's the one thing I remember most about Doc. He was a giver, not a taker. He's given us money for a distinguished professorship. He has given us money for Amaguk, that beautiful statue downstairs. He and his wife, Susie, and Ron and Dorothy Campbell, doing a beautiful piece of sculpture there. He's done so many other things. He's come and done seminars for us every single year. He did doctoral seminars for us and paid for the doctoral students to be in Escondido, California. and to do everything they did and threw parties for him. Doc always gave and never asked for anything in return. And over that time, we became very, very close friends. Susie and my wife Janine and I and Doc became very, very close friends. We spent a lot of time together. Doc and I did a lot of fun things together. We drank quite a few toddies together, smoked some cigars together, had a lot of fun, told a lot of stories, played in golf tournaments together. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite golf recollections is when we were playing in the Prestonian golf tournament in the final round. Doc on the backside with physical handicaps, he really couldn't play much at that point. Didn't hit a single green and shot 38, and we won the tournament. So we got out of town pretty quickly after that. But Doc is a wonderful human being, a great person, a giving person, and I feel very, very honored to have known him. Great scholar, great individual, great human being, and I'm even more grateful to call him a dear friend of mine. So I'll sign off today like I always did in the last 2 years I talked to Doc. Love you, Doc.
We found that in reality there's no best style. It depends upon the situation. A given style might be appropriate for a given person, a given group, or we might even have to change our styles depending upon that person's maturity in reference to a specific task.
In today's world, all of us who attempt to lead have far less power than perhaps our predecessors 30, 40, 50 years ago. A lot of the power that we used to have in this society has been legislated away, negotiated away with the unions, policied away by the organization. So there's far less power that we have to draw on, and therefore we need to be that much more sophisticated in the way that we use the little power that we have if we're going to be effective in our attempts to influence.
Situational leadership, in a nutshell, is a way of being able to look at an individual or group to assess their willingness and ability, their competency and commitment, and determine what style of leadership, what management style should I use to help that person maximize their potential, to help them grow and develop. And I think it's important to keep in mind it's not that I use a style with a person, that it's a matter of changing styles with people for different parts of their life, for different activities. I might have a young son that in mathematics has real trouble, and I need to provide guidance and structure. And yet when it comes to literature and music, all they need is encouragement. And football and wrestling, they can do it on their own. So it's not a matter of different strokes for different folks, but different strokes for the same folks in different aspects of their life.
But as I used to travel, spend a lot of time on airplanes, and I'd be in different groups around the world, when I would define leadership as an attempt to influence, almost without exception, somebody put their hand up and say, Professor Hersey, if you're influencing people, if you're directing their behavior, if you're controlling their behavior, isn't that manipulation? Isn't that manipulation? It's kind of an interesting question. My answer to that would be this. If I'm attempting to influence this person for my gain at this person's expense, that would be what? Manipulation, sure. So I could write up there, manipulation is an attempt to influence. But if I'm attempting to influence this person, so this person can win, the leader can win, and the organization can win, that's leadership. So that's the distinction. We're talking about an attempt to influence where it's an attempt for a win for the follower, for the leader, and for the organization. So this was a big learning point for me. I was a young man, and I was working with one of my giants. I had three people that were extremely important in my life that I had an opportunity to work with as a young man. One was Douglas McGregor. I don't know how many of you know that, but if you have ever heard of Theory X and Theory Y, Assumptions about the Nature of Man, that's the work of Douglas McGregor. I worked closely with Abraham Maslow, Some of you will remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs: physiological safety, social esteem, and self-actualization. But perhaps the most important of all was the 2 years I worked with Carl Rogers. Carl Rogers is known for client-centered therapy, non-directive interviewing, those kind of things. So let me give you a one-sentence definition of what's an effective leader. An effective leader is someone who matches their behaviors to the performance needs of the individual or group. An effective leader is one who matches their behaviors, their combinations of guidance and supportive behavior, to the performance needs of the individual or group. See, so I got to come around once in a while and say, hey, good job. Not only I notice, my boss notices. Keep up the good work. How long did that take me? 3 seconds. Wonder what Ken Blanchard would do with the other 57. See, managing is not necessarily 1 minute. It may take less than a minute, and it may take weeks or months to make a significant change in terms of performance.
Leadership is an attempt to influence, but one of the important ingredients of being effective as a leader is you've got to have the power that drives those leadership styles, those combinations of task behavior and relationship behavior that a leader uses to be effective. Machiavelli suggests that the best possible situation to be in is when you have a relationship based upon both love and fear. It's kind of what we would talk about today's world. Respect. Respect, love, and fear. So it's interesting seeing all the way back, hundreds and hundreds of years, they're beginning to think about the impact of leadership in terms of performance in relationships and so on.